Hey everybody, Matt here. Hope you're having a good Monday, good Martin Luther King holiday. I actually have the day off of work, technically, but I do have to go in and cover a lunch banquet here in a little bit. So I guess I technically don't, but I get a free lunch out of it, so it's not such a bad deal. Anyway, I thought I'd make a video this morning. Emmet Rigg is a VC member. He's pretty new, I think. I think he's been here 4 or 5 months. I just heard about him through another member that did a response to his response video question. And Emmett had asked, it's a good thing we need some new blood in the VC, and it's nice to have some, always good to have new people in here making videos and so forth. Anyway, Emmett had asked to name some of your favorite, name and show some of your favorite double and triple albums. First thing that came to mind were the obvious usual suspects, the White Album, London Calling, Hot Rocks by the Rolling Stones, triple albums, things like All Things Must Pass, Wings Over America, Sandinista by the Clash. I have those. I'm not going to show them because we all know what those look like, so most of you probably have them yourself. So I tried to pick out some off the beaten path choices here. Nothing really, well, there's a few rare ones, but nothing super duper rare, I don't think. But we'll start off, it's a double album, Twin Cities Funk and Soul. It's on the Secret Stash record label. Secret Stash puts out a lot of compilation albums of different genres, but they're pretty big on soul music, among other things. And what they do on their records usually is the first, I don't know how many they made of these, 500, 5,000, 1,000, whatever. It'll come out on colored vinyl, and or it'll come out with a bonus 45. Then after that, you can get them on regular black vinyl. This is the purple vinyl edition, which is long since sold out. This record came out, I want to say, 2012, 2011. So it's Lost R&B groups grooves from Minnesota St. Paul from 1964 to 1979. Purple vinyl is sort of a tribute to Prince because, of course, that's where he comes from, is Minneapolis. And this is sort of the funk and soul music that was going on in the, decades or 2 decades before Prince sort of came along and made it big. So it's a compilation album, several different bands, uh, bands that didn't make it big, so you've never heard of them, but really great music. And I don't know, some of the bands on here: Willie and the Bumblebees, Band of Thieves, The Prophets of Peace, Maurice McKinney and the Champions, the Baldons. Anyway, good old soul music from the 60s and 70s. Uh, Good stuff. Glad to have it on the purple vinyl. And that's a neat one. That's a double album. So, stay in the soul vein. Donny Hathaway, Live at the Bottom Line, 1971. Good live album, double album. Record Store Day release from, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Good stuff there. We'll stay in the soul vein and another Record Store Day release. Sly and the Family Stone, Live at the Fillmore East from when? From probably the late 60s, early 70s, 70, 71, 69. Great live album. Sly and the Family Stone, one of the great American bands of all time, of course. And it's a double record set, and it's on green vinyl and red vinyl. There's the green, and if I can get that out of here, nice shade of red there. So green and red vinyl, worth tracking down. I think this came out on a regular release outside of the limited edition colored vinyl Record Store Day release. Certainly it's worth picking up if so. And yeah, we'll stay with soul some more. This is Eccentric Soul, the Dynamic label. Great cover, I love that. This is Numero Records, and they specialize, they do some other genres, but they specialize in soul mainly, and a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s. These are bands that most people never heard of. They're various artist compilations, by and large, their releases are. And you had Motown and you had Stax with all the big names, the Supremes and Marvin Gaye and Otis Redding and all that. A lot of other little soul labels and rock and roll labels also popped up in the 60s and released records that didn't get any promotion and didn't go anywhere. Some of them weren't great, some of them were great. And so Numero has, I don't know how many releases they've done so far. They're numbered. This is number 43, if that's going to show up there. And I've got, I want to say about 15 of their releases. And there are some hidden gems in there. And like I said, they do some other stuff with some rock and roll music and so forth, and it's all no major bands. They did do some re-releases of the Shoes, which was a power pop band in the 70s, sort of in the same vein as the Knack and Cheap Trick, and they did a re-release program for some 90s band I can't remember that I never liked anyway. But most of their stuff is kind of this obscure sort of nuggets of soul, mainly, and a few rock and roll albums. Definitely worth going to the Numero website and checking out because you can listen to some of the songs on there. And so yeah, let's see. We'll do a triple album. This one's pretty well known, but Decade, Neil Young. Not really a bad song on here. This collects his Buffalo Springfield and CSNY and solo stuff. So certainly that's one of the great triple albums and one of the greatest hits albums of all time. We'll go recent, and anyone who watches my videos knows that I don't care for much music past 1984 or so, with very few exceptions. One of them being this album. This is Steven Wilson. I never can remember something about the Raven that refused to sing. It's the only album of his I got, and I got it sort of on a, when this came out 2 or 3 years ago, it kept popping up and people were talking about it, so I took a chance on it. It's a pretty good album. It kind of a mix of stuff, but kind of prog, but not, I don't know, just rock and roll and prog, I guess. Great cover, one of my favorite record covers, definitely, and a pretty good album, double album. Worth checking out. He's got a new album out since then that's supposed to be good. I don't know. I haven't heard it. Let's go back to, what's this, from 1971? One of the best albums of the 70s that a lot of people aren't familiar with, maybe. Can, German band. Tago Mago, however you say that. I don't know. This is a repress. It's a double album. It's on sort of a purple vinyl too. I don't know if the original album, which would probably be worth a fortune if you could track it down, had a gatefold or not. But great rock and roll album from the kind of in the vein of the early 70s, but also a precursor to punk rock and new wave. Definitely worth checking out. Their first 4 or 5 albums you can't go wrong with. This is an album I took a chance on. Don't remember exactly why now. This is Black Joe Lewis and the Honey Bears. It's not really very good. This came out 4 or 5 years ago, and I think this was a single album, but they had a limited edition with a bonus disc that comes on clear vinyl. It's kind of cool. The other one's just on regular black vinyl, I believe. Listen to the album. It's not terrible, but it's not very good, and I have not listened to it really since I got it 3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, that's just black vinyl. I don't know. Maybe I need to give it another shot. As I remember, the bonus disc, the clear vinyl disc, was better than the actual album proper, but I should probably give that a listen. Cover's kind of cool. It just was so-so record. I'll give it another shot. I don't even remember what it sounds like now. It's been so long. This is, I don't know what the record label is. Does it say on here? Well, hell, I don't know. Anyway, Brazilian Guitars and Fuzz Bananas. Kind of a cool cover. Got a nice little booklet that comes in there with it. And each of the records. This is a various artists compilation. This is an incredible, wonderful, great album. Very much worth tracking down. If you're a fan of 60s garage rock, things like Nuggets and Pebbles and all those garage bands like the Standells and so forth and one hit wonders, this is worth tracking down. This is stuff from the 60s. It might go a little into the 70s, but I think it's all from the 60s. Anyway, it's Brazil, and just like kids in America and England and France and so forth, when the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and those guys came along, a lot of kids thought that's cool and picked up guitars and started garage bands. Same thing happened in Brazil and throughout Mexico and South America. And these guys released records on obscure little labels down there. And so it's just garage rock. And it's just, you know, if you like Nuggets, if you like garage rock, you got to have this. This is just incredible. The first song is about Robin's in trouble in outer space in a spaceship, and he calls Batman to come help him, and for some reason he gets a bad connection and he gets the Brazilian Batman instead of the American Batman, but everything's okay in the end because the Brazilian Batman gets up there and gets him back to Earth, I guess. And it's mainly original songs, but there's a cover of The Lantern and by the Rolling Stones, of course, and I Want to Be Your Man, the Beatles song, which the Rolling Stones also covered. Just a great album. I mean, like I said, this is a 10 out of 10 if you like 60s rock and garage rock. Let's see. This one is between New and Kisses on the Bottom. Didn't get a whole lot of notice. Ocean's Kingdom by Paul McCartney. It's a double album. It's one of his classical works. It's supposed to be like a ballet or a classical work. It's classical music. I've played this a few times. It's just not terrible. It's just nothing great, but it's just sort of listened to it once or twice just to listen to it, and I've played it a few times since, just when I was doing stuff around the house. It's just pleasant, kind of classical, ballet, whatever music. Supposed to be some story to it, and if you open the gatefold, it explains the story. It's goofy, but the music is okay. Don't go in here expecting rock and roll or pop or Paul McCartney music. It's classical music, but it's not bad. Like I said, I mentioned Wings Over America, great album. I'm not a huge fan of live albums, but that's one of my favorite live albums. And Paul McCartney's probably his best live album. Well, not probably, it is. But there's also this one that I got, and this is a triple record? Yeah, this is a triple set. Tripping the Live Fantastic. I think there's also, or I don't think I know, there's also a single album that's just kind of the best of this album, but this is the triple album version. It's not very good. It's not terrible, but it's nowhere near as good as Wings Over America. I saw him on the tour that this came from, which was a good concert back in, was it 1989 or 90, if I've got my dates right. I don't listen to this too much. It's okay. But, and this I think is a later live album, is a double. It's called Paul is Live. The Tripping the Live Fantastic is somewhat rare on vinyl. I think this is really pretty much rare. More rare than Tripping the Live Fantastic. Double album, wasn't expecting much for this because of the live albums I've heard of Paul McCartney other than Wings Over America have been, just okay. Really like this one actually though. It's a good one, and I'm glad to have it on vinyl. I don't know if it's even, might be kind of hard to track down on CD nowadays. We'll stay in the Beatles vein. Once Upon a Time, John Lennon, double album. This is, I believe, the Lennon Anthology CD box set. This sort of just, well, yeah, I don't believe, because there it says right there, selections from Lennon Anthology. This is sort of a overview of that, which is, what is that, like a 4 or 5 CD set? I don't have it. Need to get it. This is really good. It's got some demos and some greatest hits and so forth, and some kind of obscurities, and nice nice double album. It's not live. I think, well, there are some live tracks on it, but good album. I enjoy it, and it's fairly hard to track down. Also, there's another one called a Best of Lennon. That's I can't went blank on the title. Has a picture of his face on the cover, and it's a double best of. That's getting harder and harder to find on vinyl. I wish I would have picked it up sooner because it's gone up in price. Let's see, I've got a few more left, but we're getting there. I'm going to jump to 2 CDs just because I don't have them on vinyl. I wish I did. They're 2 of the great albums of all time. The Who, My Generation, and The Who, Sell Out. And you're saying, wait a minute, double, triple albums, these are single albums. Well, they are, but when the deluxe editions of the CD, and I don't know that these ever came out on vinyl. I think that the Sellout came out on vinyl. I don't know that the deluxe edition of My Generation came out on vinyl. But when they came out on the deluxe editions, they added a bonus disc, which was been pretty par for the course the last 20 years for bands to do that too. When they remaster their albums and re-release them, you'll get a bonus disc or a bonus album. And so that was that. You get the original album, I think, in mono and stereo, and then you get the bonus disc of outtakes, unreleased songs, some live stuff and all. And the reason I bring them up, and there's another album in here that's on vinyl that I'm going to show in a minute, is usually for me, when you get those bonus discs, they're nice to have and they're kind of interesting, but you listen to them once or twice and you're like, yeah, that's okay, and then you never play them again. You just play the regular album. And these are 2 examples where the bonus disc is very good, and I play the bonus discs of both of these an awful lot. My Generation is I'd say this is the Who's best album, and I'd say this is the Who's second best album in my opinion. So this is their debut, great album. The bonus disc is almost as good as the regular album, and there's a lot of there's some outtakes and stuff, but there's several songs that were not on the regular album, were not released other than bootlegs, I guess, until this came out. So very good. Thing with Who Sell Out, and I got it. It's been out of print for years. Even when I first got into the Who back in 78, 79, I got Sell Out and My Generation, and then Magic Bus and Happy Jack as those double albums that y'all might remember in America. I don't have many more. I would have shown them. But the Who Sell Out was a single album, and when the bonus disc came out, which has like 23 tracks on it, and the single album is a 13-track deal, but it's got another bonus so there's like 30 tracks on the first disc. You got the regular album, some bonus tracks, and this is all bonus tracks on the second disc. And it's hard to think of the Who Sell Out without those bonus tracks, because there's some of them that are as good or better than some of the songs on the regular album, and it's I don't know why they didn't release it back in 1967 that way. But anyway, so like I said, most of the times you get that bonus disc and it's just, listen to it once or twice and it's just okay, and you don't listen to it much otherwise. So with that in mind, we will go to another single album when it was released back in, I believe, 1971, 1972. For some reason, I've got a Venus and Mars sticker that I stuck down in there. It's not stuck to the album, it's just in there. But Muswell Hillbillies by the Kinks, released as a single album. This one was a record store day thing that came out with an expanded edition with a second disc of unreleased and alternate take and so forth. This is an album I went through and did Kinks reviews of all their albums here, 2 years ago, a year or two ago, from the first album up to their last. And when I got to the 70s albums, a lot of these I was not familiar with because I hadn't bought them way back when. I was really familiar with the 60s albums and their 80s stuff when they sort of made a comeback. So I bought these albums new. I'd always heard that a lot of their 70s albums weren't that good. Anyway, I did a review of this one, and I think I gave it it's just so-so or okay, not great. But since then, in the last year or two, I've been listening to a lot of the 70s albums more, and they've grown on me, most of them, a lot more. This is a really great album, better than my original review would indicate. but it's not as great as their 60s run from, say, 66 through 70, but it is very good. And if I was to rate this now, I would probably give it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 instead of whatever I gave it in that review. But the regular album is great. The bonus is another one of those cases where the bonus disc is actually worth listening to, and I do play it fairly often. I still have my copy of the original single disc version. This, on the other hand, is one of those Kinks albums from the 70s that I still have not really been able to get into. I haven't played it a whole lot. I need to play it some more. Preservation Act 1 I reviewed, and I don't think I gave it a great review, but that's grown on me a lot and moved up in my book. This one's still, there's fans of it, and there are good songs on it. There's, unlike almost any other band, there's really not anything such as a bad Kinks album. Their last album's a little dodgy, but there are some that are not as good as others, and this one, in my view, is not as good as others. And even though there are a few good songs on here, and it's been so long since I've listened to it that I don't remember most of the songs on here, so I probably need to give it another spin to see if I like it a little more. Anyway, that's a double album, The Kinks. Preservation Act 2. Act 1 is a single album. So this, unlike Preservation Act 2, is a compilation of sort of best of. This is a 10 out of 10. This is up there with the Beatles' Red and Blue albums, with Hot Rocks by the Rolling Stones, with Meaty Beaty, Big and Bouncy by the Who. It's actually better than that, than Meaty Beaty. This is an album that you need. If you don't have this album, and if you don't have the day off today, have to go to work, call your boss up, tell him you're going to be late. Say, boss, I'll be there in a little bit. I've got to get to the record store. I've got to buy the Kinks Chronicles. He'll understand. Not a bad song on here. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 50. So go out and buy that immediately if you don't have it. But the thing about this is you don't get You Really Got Me All Day and All of the Night. I think Sunny Afternoon is on here. Yeah, it is. But you don't get a lot of their early 64, 65 hits. This covers their sort of 66 to up to about Lola, 1970. Not a bad song on there, and you need it. But when I first got into the Kinks back in 1980, the first album I bought, and I could have shown that it's a double album, is One for the Road, their live album. I bought it brand new when it came out. Second album I bought was, I think, Village Green. And this would be probably the third or fourth album that I bought. It's a double album. It's from France. It's a greatest hits album too. But it covers, and I don't know when it came out. It's probably long out of print. Maybe not, I don't know. But it covers the same from the beginning up to about 1970. So it does have You Really Got Me All Day and All of the Night, Tired of Waiting for You. Has their first couple of 45s, Long Tall Sally, which of course the Beatles did too, and Little Richard, You Still Want Me, which the original was their second 45. But it covers the whole up to, like I said, 1970. The band went on through to 1995. So it doesn't cover anything past 1970. Not a bad song on here, great record, and this was the album that introduced me to a lot of the Kinks' great songs, because, you know, they didn't get a lot of airplay outside of You Really Got Me and Lola in the United States. And that's it. So, I've got other double and triple albums, but like I said, things like the White Album or the Beatles Story or London Calling, you all know those, so we won't cover those there. Hope you all have a good Martin Luther King Day, and I will be back with some more videos sometime soon.